what we're talking about today, we're going to look at practitioner side and we're looking at exerciser side. So if you're working on yourself and you're observing what you're doing, right, versus working hand in hand with another person, I'm observing what you're doing while you're observing while you're doing it, right? So that's what I'm delineating between the two. We're looking at how a practitioner would be measuring, observing, and collecting. That data collection would be either empirical being what they're saying, what they're feeling, what they smell, what they taste, what they feel, like sensation-wise, versus rational, which is like understanding the numbers of what is normative for a lot of people. Unfortunately, a lot of people that come in here are non-normative. Right. So at least we have the idea of what would normal numbers be for ranges of motion, what would be normal for if somebody performed an exercise and what they were going to feel in their body. Would they feel tired in a certain spot? Would they feel it across many joints? Would they feel it in a joint if they did it a certain way, right? Like, so we have this idea of data collection being empirical or rational. We're also going to take steps in looking at the holism. What is it we're trying to do? What's our main objective? What is the whole body going through? Okay, what are the parts going through? In little quadrants to see that what adds up to the whole, and does it equate? Because all that is in alignment with finding a true signal to noise, and that's called signal detection theory. Are we finding the right signal to even make an intervention, or to take a stimulus away so that we get the right adaptation? Because the right stimulus, which is crazy for a human, right? You put a stimulus in, whatever stimulus it is, and there's a chance to actually build tissue from the challenge, which is the craziest idea ever. It's not like a normal machine where it's like, okay, we're going to go in and put this, and we're going to mod that. Like your body chooses to build it or not to build it based upon the stimulation, and who knows if it does, right? Unless you have some way to have another detection, which is usually like a scan of some sort or an x-ray or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes those x-rays and scans, they don't end up being what you think it's going to be as to how you feel. So feel and what someone believes is real at the same time, they may not be the same, or maybe like, oh wow, my hip hurts and I have a hip that's arthritic. Okay, now that kind of lines up with locality. That rarely happens in our gym, where it's like, well, we have this hip thing, and man, even if somebody has some arthritis in the hip or is quote unquote bone on bone, sometimes they go through some exercises in a whole bunch of different parts of their body, holism, right? Sometimes it's reductionism, where we're going through little pieces, but no exercise in the body is by itself. As soon as you're doing an exercise, unfortunately, the whole body has to organize itself in order to create that solution. That's why the idea of body view centric, constantly modifying like what we believe a body to be, how it chooses to solve problems, how it perceives the environment, how it takes in stimuli, and how it would adapt. That's why we have a whole new segment called Body View. And it's way more in depth than this if people want to look at that. If you're someone who wants to go down the rabbit hole of what we deal with on a daily basis, or an exercise practitioner, you can look at that. We're going to have several shows specifically on more nerded out topics on Body View. I highly recommend, if you want to level up on physiology, anatomy, biomechanics, that kind of stuff, and motor learning, that's what Body View is all about. Lastly, asking questions for that empiricism. Like, what is somebody's subjective report? And then marrying that with my subjective report on how that looks, because I have biases. Right? I didn't mean understanding those biases of like, oh, that person did a leg extension, but they feel it in their back. Like, that's why would they feel it in their back? Okay, if they feel it in their back, maybe their torso can't control itself very well, and it's fatiguing. And maybe that's the limiting factor for how their knee is extending, because in order for my knee to extend, unfortunately, if I do one knee extension, now my whole body's got to kind of turn a little bit and support itself. to do that, right? Body view.
I'm going to just piggyback off your leg extension. You doing a leg extension, the idea that it stays in your leg, like the stimulus that you're creating stays in your leg, is crazy. Like, never did I think of it in these terms, like, 5, 6 years ago. But like, you're putting an input, which is the machine or whatever resistance you're putting into the body, is a stimulus that the whole body has to react to. Like, the whole body.
Yeah.
Like, there's changes that start to occur immediately so that the body can orchestrate you staying in a certain position. It's like, when Tom used to talk about all the time, like, the thing that's moving, like, is important, but so are all the things that aren't moving.
Right.
Are just as important, right? So in order for you to do this leg extension, your trunk does have to maintain a certain position. Your other leg has to maintain a certain position. Are you holding on? Are your arms across your chest? Like, what's the orientation? Are you looking up? Are you looking down?
Info here?
Right. Like, there's so many things going on, but we're so focused on the thing that's moving. We don't recognize that there's other things that are happening at the same time, and that singular input has a cascading effect throughout the whole system, and that could be a positive or a negative, right? Like, because there's always two sides to the coin. Like, something could positively change and something can negatively change. Like, like the whole. Well,
that's what agency is all about,
right?
The agency is like, what is that person's state in, and if it's like, if I feel like this had a positive impact, that it's called valence, right? Positive valence or negative valence. It's like, what's the person's state at? Like, oh, I feel pretty good today. Oh, I don't feel so good today. I had this stuff happen and that stuff. So it's like, it's well known that before someone even executes a movement, the brain or the motor system's got to decide way before you even do it. So that in itself means the whole system has got to organize the movement. If you squeeze a muscle, it's well known that these muscles are also a gland. They're secreting chemicals that are anti-inflammatory in nature, and sometimes, I don't know if they're slightly anabolic, but they can have hormonal cascades from you using them towards, like, growth hormone, testosterone, other types of hormones, IGF-1, whatever, right? That are triggered from just contraction and how they're excreting these myokines or exokines. So it's interesting to see, like, how systemic a muscle contraction can be. It's nuts.
If I do something, like a leg extension, but this client has other, like, issues, it's like, how did that leg extension impact the rest of their body?
Yeah.
Like, did it make their neck feel better, or their back feel better, or some other part of their body feel better, which we see all the time, right? Where you train something and then something else feels better, and it's like, oh, how did that happen, right? Like, we're always taught that it's like, hey man, if your shoulder's bothering you, like, if you get that shoulder stronger, it'll get better, right? You just keep throwing strength at it and it'll get better as it gets stronger. Well, that's not always the case. Sometimes it gets worse, in certain scenarios. And
I think that's also why it's so important to have, if there's an exercise professional that you're working with, that's their main objective, is to be another observer of what you're experiencing as you're going through it. So if someone's just talking with you as you're doing a session, there is no value in that. If somebody's observing what you're going through, asking questions while you're doing it, seeing if you feel in other parts of your body, that's where all these other observations leads to progression. That's also why exercise in itself is a whole body process, where somebody can take authority of their own body and go through low risk scenarios, because they know what their body is capable of, and if with a little bit of guidance, you can do a lot of this stuff yourself, because there's a ton of opportunity for growth and autonomy rather than high risk. That's why starting simple, starting small, starting slow, starting light, starting with control, like only doing a couple of exercises. I got a whole list of things that we're going to cover for if you're just exercise, not just if you're just exercising,
Right.
if you're exercising, how to put a plan together, because I firmly believe that, yeah, if you have a heart condition, first of all, make sure that you're cleared to do this stuff and you understand where the doctor tells you there's a higher risk. But then I also have had some doctors say, well, just don't lift more than 20 pounds, like, or 10 pounds. I'm just like, 10 pounds of what, where, on what part of your body are you like picking it up from the ground? Like, what do you mean 10 pounds? Because if I lift my body, if I'm a 200-pound person and I pick myself up, I'm way over 10 pounds, or is that 10 pounds holding it here, my arm's okay? What if I have an arthritic knee? It's like specification, getting clear, having a plan, and then progressing an actual plan. That to me is very calming, where I know exactly, okay, where would I want to make a change in this thing, because I'm taking responsibility for this amazing body vehicle that I have, rather than just saying, like, like when somebody says, I don't know, to me, it's like saying, I don't want to think about it.
Right.
I don't want to take responsibility for this. I don't want to think about it. It's your deal. Instead of like, if we're here together, it already means it's our deal. Because I can't be here alone. You can't be here alone. Because you even hear me and see me, now we're in this together. And I choose to have this be a 50-50 relationship, because I'm not you. I will never know your body like you know your body.
Piggybacking off that, like, I can only see what my client is doing, right? Like, I can only observe visually what they're doing. I can't feel it for them, right?
Don't
like,
you love it when people say, I can feel what my clients are feeling?
Yeah, it's like,
no, you
I
can't.
can't feel that. Like, and we say all the time here, where'd you feel that in your body? Mm-hmm. Where'd that, like, when you went through that on a scale 1 to 10, how fatiguing was that? Mm-hmm. Because I have no idea. They're telling me, yeah, like, I couldn't have done another 2 reps. But it's like, well, you look pretty good. Mm-hmm. Like, you look like you were going pretty good. So you just hit a wall? And it's like, well, yeah, like, okay. Like, so I have to make a note of that. Mm-hmm. Right? So I can say, okay, here's what we did, how we set it up. We were able to do this many reps. This is where they felt it in their body.
Yeah.
And this is what they consider their fatigue level.
Right.
Okay. Well, now I got to compare it to something, or I got to try to figure out how to compare it to something.
Right.
Right. And that's where, like, just this observational, thing comes from, where it's like, okay, if I've got a client, I want to see, like, what can they do? Where do they feel it in their body? What type of fatigue do they have? Like, is it did I set up the test in a way where, it's going to be more endurance-y, more strength-based? Like, and is that important, right? Like, and how do I come up with that decision? So, those are all things that
coming up with that decision, period, is off of what we talked about before. Basically, we already shared the process,
right?
And that's why there are a whole bunch of exercise professionals that, when we talked about before, they have an evaluation process that is about movement or comparison of range of motion, or what they'll do is they'll do some sort of fitness tests, right? They'll like, how many squats can you do, or what's your VO2 max, or whatever. It couldn't be more different for when we talk about what we've switched to. We've gone from doing functional movement screens to like squat assessments, all the way down to now what we have, which is, first of all, we meet with a client to understand what the heck's even going on, to see if it's even a good fit.
But after 4 weeks, their knee's still bothering them. How are you going to continue to get them to come back if you don't show them that things are actually changing in a positive way?
Justifying.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we're not a pain management clinic.
No.
So we're not dealing with that. Like, now, the byproduct of getting things stronger and more stable and functioning better,
Yeah.
tends to lead to less sensations that people don't like,
Right.
but it's not the direct impact. Like, that's not what we're chasing.
I mean, you're not going to reverse severe arthritis with exercise immediately, and or maybe even ever. It's like, who knows how the joint's going to react over time. The sensations may change, but materially that may not change. And it's like, if there are baselines and the understanding that everything will be remeasured and retested, every session there are going to be metrics along with subjective reporting, where it's like, well, but did something change? Did it change when we did that thing versus that thing? And then do you see numbers change drastically? Because sometimes it's like, we'll do a torso thing, and the leg extension that we did, one side's output, it was painful, and the other side was great. When we noticed that the torso had difficulty laterally flexing or rotating, we go back to the leg extension, and all of a sudden there's no pain, and the knee can straighten easily with, like, I don't know, 4 times the load, right? It's like, oh, okay, that is tied into that, easily tied into that. And,
Right.
and it's making those correlations based upon a system to actually flush out where to start and what do you think is going to be different. Somebody that is 13 with like one pain point with no injuries and throws a lot, compared to a 70-year-old with arthritic hip, a knee replacement on 5 meds, and maybe had 2 concussions and loves water skiing, so they probably had a lot more concussions, right? So it's like allostasis, meaning what is the set point of that human? How many insults has their system taken? Like a computer that's loaded with viruses versus, oh, I just got my new iMac, and it doesn't really start well. It's completely different. It's like get off those bad websites.
Right. But I mean, and just reiterate, I mean, that's what's so important about having client relationships, is being able to show clients like, hey, like, you're actually making progress here based on these things, right? Versus getting away from, I had pain, you guys did this thing, and now I have no pain. Like, so it's going to be gone forever.
I'm fixed.
Right?
Forever.
Like, forever. And it's like, it doesn't really work that way.
Nobody lives forever.
And, so from that standpoint, it's like, I want to have a different tool to be able to show somebody, hey, these are the things that we're going to do. These are the steps I'm going to take. Do they change? Do these things change, or do they not? Like, if they don't change, one, maybe I need to reevaluate what we're doing. Or 2, maybe this individual has no business being in here.
Right.
Right? And wouldn't it be nice to have a system to flush that out sooner rather than later?
Yeah.
And again, that just comes down to,
Well, that's why our process changed so much, is because there was so many variables that we weren't detecting before, and now we see these variables that really seem to matter to every level of a human, regardless of their performance ability. It's like, for anybody exercising out there that's listening to this, it's like, previous injuries, surgeries, medications, they matter. Like, go to drugs.com, put in your medications, see what type of side effects that there are from the meds, because it may change. Like, you may notice that there's muscle weakness, you may notice that there are some sort of nutrient deficiencies because of the meds that you're on. They may also affect your ability to recover. So, like, how often you even exercise would change. Where you hurt or where you feel sore is only part of the puzzle, but it's still an important part of the puzzle. So if that changes, like, cool, like, you're feeling better, your level of agency is going up. There's no way to completely section off any part of the body for exercise. You can bias stuff, but that's also an amazing part of what exercise is because as you're going and discovering the things that you can do, that's a part of the progression. Great. Start with the stuff that you can do and you feel okay with. From there, with the stuff that you can do, you can change what position you're in. You can change the load. the placement of the load on the body. You can change like what direction of where is that load pushing on my arm or my leg? Do I even have to move it? Could I just hold it in a position? Am I only gonna go forward with it rather than forward and back? Like would I go forward and lower it with both feet? Like I could do a whole bunch of different stuff. Do I have to do rep after rep? I could do one rep and just rest for a little bit, and then try it again. I could do different co-contractions or involve other things with it. So say I'm going to straighten both legs. Well, if I straighten both legs and did my knee extension, well, what happens if I arched? What happens if I slouched? What happens if I just use my head and look up? What happens if I use my hands and squeeze? Do these co-contractions or synergies, do they change how this stuff is working? What senses are involved? Being, where am I looking? Like, what am I listening to? Like, you can change that stuff, and it may actually change like the output or how you feel. Lastly, recording. Write stuff down. What type of load did you use? Like, how many did I get? If I did one side versus the other versus both. What was the machine called? Like, okay, how many times a week did I do it? Am I doing it every flipping day? And all of a sudden I realized that I've walked, wow, man, I got my like 1 billion steps in with my ruck vest, and I wonder why my foot's tingling. Also, what condition are you in even to start? Like, do I feel okay, or am I already depleted while I'm going through this? And is there a pattern, right? So these are things you can already do, and make notes of that stuff right now, because then you can see, like, am I recovering? Do I need more recovery? Do I need more stimulus? Right? Am I totally doing this where I could be talking to somebody and it's like, what would you feel? I don't know. Well, okay, well, how am I supposed to know what you feel?
Right. Well, I think at the end of the day, like the idea that if you do have a part of your body that has sensations you don't like, that you should avoid all things in that area, like, is crazy, right? Like if your knee hurts and you're avoiding doing things because you don't want your knee to hurt, the more you avoid using that knee, probably the worse it's going to get. Yeah. Like, so just experimenting with different things, as many things as you can think of that maybe doesn't hurt the knee but involves the knee, like, is a very big deal. And being able to write those things down and seeing whether or not, if you continue to do those things, like that sensation changes over time.
Right.
I mean, I think the biggest thing that we find when we have a client that comes in with some sort of pain, right, like knee, back, shoulder, doesn't matter, like, oh yeah, I just avoid doing all those things because I don't want to piss it off anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, well, would it be okay if we tried some things to see if we could find something that didn't make it feel worse? Right? And if you can find some of those things, and then it's crazy over the course of time, like, things start to feel a little bit better as things get a little bit more control, a little bit more strength. Like, you know, you can start to incorporate a couple other different positions. Like, you know, sometimes just changing positions makes a big deal.
Well,
right?
yeah,
So
that configurational thing. It's like if you're seated versus standing versus on your side versus a different machine, or like a different setup on a machine, or not using machine, great, right? It, like, okay, but that's also why body view matters so much, because it's like, how many things of the knee are just crossing the knee?
right.
And there's so many muscles that also cross the ankle or the hip that cross the knee. So it's like thinking that it's all working alone in an area that has pain is absolutely ludicrous. It doesn't even, it's borderline negligent if you're a practitioner and think, okay, this thing that is only involved in knee control is only going to happen at the knee. It's like, come on.
Well, and I think just to kind of wrap this segment up too, the idea that exercises that have names like squat and bench and, you know, lat pull down and bicep curl, has to be done in a specific way,
Yeah.
right? If you don't squat to 90 degrees, it's not a squat. If you don't squat to 90 degrees, it's not effective.
Yeah.
Well, what if I can only squat halfway or a quarter of the way down? Because if I squat any deeper, my knee feels like it's going to explode. Is there any value to squatting only a quarter of the way down? I would say yes.
Yeah.
Right?
If you got it.
Yeah, if you're able to do it, like it's better than not, right?
Right.
But then the idea that, oh, well, it won't look the way it's supposed to, like who made that rule?
Yeah, who cares?
Like who cares, right?
Who cares?
If you enjoy bench pressing, but your shoulder doesn't function well because it doesn't allow for you to bring the bar to your chest, can you not bench anymore? You can totally bench, but I wouldn't go beyond what your shoulder can tolerate, right? So let's say we have to 3 board press so that we keep our shoulder out of a range that just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't think you still get value out of that?
Yeah.
You get a ton of value out of that, right? But I think that again, like I had a couple clients today, like we talked about that where it's like, well, I don't do that anymore because I can't get the depth. What does that even mean? Like, no, like we don't have to go that deep. Like, and you may find over the course of time that the stronger you get in the motion you can control and feel good in, that your body allows you to have a little more. Right? So, yeah, if you can continue to violate or continue to squat 90 degrees and your knee feels like crap when you do it and you just do it and you override that sensation, yeah, over the course of time, you're probably going to get even less motion. It's going to feel even crappier. But if you appreciate the fact that, you know what, at this given time, I can't do that, and I'm just going to go to the level that it feels comfortable, you may find over the course of time it gets better.
It's better.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's, the one thing that I see a lot where there is no exercise rules. There are none. Like, that's not even a real thing. Like, but there are rules of the body, right? And your body's going to tell you whether it likes it or not, right?
That's that body view thing. It's like the more that somebody understands about the rules of what physiology, anatomy, and physics are, and how these systems organize with information, that's motor learning. So it's like each one of those teaches your body how to organize its materials and how to organize its physiology. Knowing any piece of the body, physiology, anatomy, motor learning, great. But more importantly, be present while you're training. Start small, reduce risk, start training, because the evidence for even light motion compared to no motion and using your body just spawns ability for it to build and then be controlled in the future, because that's the whole point of what the exercise is so it can build materials and predict the future so you can move about your environment. And if you can't produce enough force and your body does not feel safe, you will not move, because it takes forces to move in this world. Thank you guys all for watching again. I'm Keith.
Brandon.
BizBody. To support the show, like and subscribe and follow. If you would like to work with any of the Body Activation staff, go to body-activation.com. Want to learn more about the Muscle System Specialists, go to exerciseproed.com. Thank you again for watching and listening.